I will tell you right up front, I don't like this speech that I'm going to talk about, or these comments, because we've already been here, and we didn't take advantage of the opportunities that we had in that time frame. We don't need to reinvent the wheel to serve our members, yet everybody's trying their own thing and there's no cohesiveness. Let's just make improvements over what we have in place right now. Too many of our civilian leaderships don't read history. They think it doesn't affect them. They think it's not going to happen. Because we need to talk about how we can make a difference this time rather than just talk about it.
Our military community right now, those serving and those who are veterans and their families are experiencing a full range of emotions, from frustration to anger to sadness and even moral distress. And as we watch the events unfolding in Afghanistan and across our nation and across the world, it leaves many wondering if their service made a difference and was it worthwhile. I'd ask you to reach out this week to veterans that you know. Many of you Vietnam veterans are reliving No Welcome Back and reliving how Vietnam ended as you watch the events of Afghanistan. Many need a call from you, your friends and battle buddies and shipmates and wingmen and ranger buddies. Give them a call. Make sure they're doing okay. Let's lift up our veterans and make sure they are connected to their communities and have a connection with you. Let's create a network of both caring and resiliency.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Jerry Ferris. I'm the current commander for the Military Order of the Purple Heart for the state of Ohio Honor Guard. I'm sure a lot of you, from watching the news, have your own opinions and your thoughts and concerns relative to what's going on there today. Now, in 1969, June of 1969, I was stationed at the American Embassy in San Salvador, El Salvador, in Central America. And sí, como no, yo puedo hablar español ahora. Pero what happened was, being the NCOIC of that embassy meant that I was responsible for the security of that embassy, along with our defense attachés and our commander-in-chief at the post, the ambassador of that embassy, and also our contingency plans who are stationed in Panama. Now, the Marines, we had chores that we had to take care of relative to not only the security, but the operations of the embassy. And daily and nightly, we would go through offices and make sure that there was no classified material left out. And if it was, they knew that they were going to feel the wrath from security, because if we would take those classified documents, we would lock them up in our safe. We would then write them up and have a note on their desk when they came in the morning, and they had to answer to the ambassador. So we made sure that our embassy was secure. But now when we look at Afghanistan, now we're talking a little bit apples and oranges here. There's a difference. Our embassy in San Salvador was not a very large embassy, but it was America away from America. And we had some radical situations that we had to contend with often. And one of the things that the ambassador and I came up with is that we were going to rehearse how we deployed our forces, the uses of the Marines in the embassy, and how we would gather the Americans and those sympathizers that worked with us at the embassy. And what we would do every couple of months, we rehearsed, gathering up the kids who were going to school. We would put them on buses. We would get them to the embassy. We would contact Panama. Panama would makeshift fly-in helicopters. They wouldn't land, but they were there because they were showing the strength that we had in order to get our Americans out of that country. Now, one of the things that happened to us during 1970, the radicals fired an RPG through the third floor of our American embassy. The gates were closed, we locked down, and yes, the Marines took charge, and we got those folks that fired that RPG. We let them know that you step on this ground with bad intentions, you're going to reap the repercussions. But not only that, we were able to walk around the country. We were able to talk to people. We were able to be friendly with them, to let them know that we were America, but we were there to help them, to make sure that they had everything they needed. But our concentration was on the employees, not only the Americans, but the Salvadoranians who worked in the embassy as well, their families, those people that helped us throughout all of the strife that we went through, all of the radical units that were there. We had people infiltrating those operations. And so we ran a pretty smooth operation. Now again, I'm going to go back just a little bit and talk about what's happening today. Now, granted, this is my perspective. As we get down to this withdrawal on the 31st, just before coming up here today, I heard on the news that it's unlikely that we will be able to retrieve all of our Americans out of there by the 31st. But the Taliban has also said, well, if you miss that date, there will be serious consequences. Well, what does that mean? Are we going to leave them there? I doubt very seriously. Are we just going to let something happen and stand by and watch and say, okay, we can't get them all out? We have to do something. The other thing I want to dovetail into this is the fact that being a current Warren County, Ohio Veteran Service Commissioner, it is our responsibility to take care of our veterans. And as the General spoke this morning about those folks that are coming back from multiple deployments, being a 3-time Purple Heart recipient from Vietnam, it's like we are visualizing Vietnam all over again. And the PTSD that we suffered coming back from the scars and the things that we saw and we participated in and the things that we did stay with us. They don't go away. So when I look at the news, which I very seldom do right now because it is just so overwhelming for me, I look at that and I say, you know, here we go again. Now, I just got off of a very expressing organizational trip for Gold Star families, Blue Skies for good guys and gals. And I spent a week out at a camp talking to veterans, both Afghanistan, Vietnam, other deployments, the multiple deployments that they had in Iraq, where as a commissioner and we talk to veterans that come back that have 5, 6, 7 deployments. When we were in Vietnam, I did 2 tours, but I had to volunteer for that second tour. That's another long story I'll tell you about later on. But the thing is that, you know, it is incumbent upon us, our Vietnam veterans, to make sure that what happened to us when we came home never happens again. There's going to be an influx of soldiers, Marines, Air Force, Army, coming back home from these deployments to be reintroduced to society. And what are we going to do? We can't let them just dwindle out there. We have to reach out to them. And that's one of the things that I did at this Blue Skies thing. I reached out to every veteran I could talk to, find out their story. Call me if you need help. I got 2 calls this morning, standing here. Got a situation that's going on back home for veterans. And so, again, I reiterate, it is incumbent upon us to do the best we can to take care of those that have come home. We don't want to see another Vietnam. Now, I'm sure there's other contingency plans that are going on that we don't know about relative to Afghanistan. But like I said, I'm sure you all have your own opinions and thoughts about how things are transpiring out there. And I pray that we are able to retrieve all of those who worked with us over the past 20 years, those Army and soldiers, Marines that are on the ground now protecting the airport. I pray that we get them all out safely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for letting me come here today. It's a privilege. did see one other VIP who was here, I'm not sure if it got mentioned, Cornell Robertson, who is our county engineer. The last job I had before I worked for the Department of Veteran Services, I was a judge in Franklin County. I got to serve alongside our engineer, and I just wanted to say thank you for being here. I served in Afghanistan in 2011 and 2012. I was in an infantry brigade combat team. It was the same kind of work that so many people in this room did. I did not have the experience that people from Vietnam had. My father served in Vietnam. I grew up on base. Every one of my friends' fathers served in Vietnam as a kid, and I vividly remember the experience we all had. I was about 6 years old when Saigon fell, and I remember the pall that fell across our community. I didn't have the experience that so many people had from Vietnam because the Vietnam generation made sure that our generation of veterans did not have that experience. There's never been a time when I wasn't thanked for my service. I have very complicated feelings about where we are this week. I would not presume to burden anybody here with them. I will say that I hope for better decisions in the days to come. We have an opportunity as veterans to continue to serve one another, to continue to serve our community. I am very proud of what I did. I am very proud of the people I served with. There is nothing that the decision makers in this world do that changed the character of my actions or anybody else's. The Department of Veteran Services continues to stand by every veteran in Ohio. I thank General Ferriter for putting that information out. We have a similar list. I suspect it has a great many of the same resources. For those veterans that you know who need help, please ask them to contact the Ohio Department of Veteran Services directly or to contact our website. We're here to make sure that people get connected to the resources they need. At the end of the day, we don't do that because it is our patriotic duty, although I think it is. We don't do it because people have earned that support through their service, although I think they have. We do it because veterans continue to make our best neighbors. They are the people we work with and trust. They are the people that make Ohio the great place that it is. And the only way we will keep that quality of people here is if we continue to stand with them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd be happy to answer any questions after this. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. My name's Bill Butler. I'm the Chief of Staff here at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. I'm also a combat veteran of Afghanistan and Iraq, 11 months in Iraq, 22 in Afghanistan. I'm the son and son-in-law of two Vietnam veterans, both of whom had 2 deployments to Vietnam. Like everybody else, it's complicated range of emotions with regard to Afghanistan. Frustration, anger, sadness, hope, and pride. Hope that we are doing the right things, and pride that there are organizations and individuals and servicemen and women taking care of those Afghans who are still trying to get out. So as the events unfolded, I was wrestling with my emotions, and I reached out to a bunch of men that I served with and one woman, and probably 30 phone calls and a couple of emails and texts, and it was very cathartic for me to figure out and get my head wrapped around the failure of Afghanistan and what we've done and the impact it's going to have in our country and around the world. But in talking, the thing that sticks with me is our actions were completely honorable. Our conduct was professional. We fought courageously, and we took care of one another, whether those were the men and women to our right or the Afghans with whom we served. I've reached out to 2 of the interpreters that I served with, and one is, they're both American citizens, but they both have families in Afghanistan, and they're trying to get their family members and their friends out. When I was talking to one of my former company commanders, he's a West Point graduate, but one of his classmates runs an organization called No One Left Behind. And so then when I had a subsequent call with a gentleman I'd served with in Afghanistan, but he's associated with the Ohio State program that we run for leader certification through the John Glenn School. He was trying to get his interpreter out, and he's stuck in Jalalabad in Kunar province in eastern Afghanistan. So I was able to put him in contact through my former company commander, the organization No One Left Behind. And they're working diligently to get 5,000 Afghans and their family members out that supported America because they believed in us. So there are some great organizations out there and some wonderful individuals doing really hard work to try and turn this around and get as many people out as we can.
No, we're not going to quit. We're just going to pivot and put everything online. And so I've challenged my staff during this time period to develop e-commerce for entrepreneurs, Black Rifle Coffee, Grunt Style, Nine Line, all your battle buddies there, and take care of them. Part 2 of stage 3 will be a veteran concierge idea. So that's to bring together everybody who's in the game, and beginning with veteran transition, employment, education, and wellness. Now the wellness side of it we already are doing. We're doing it since day one. We're taking care of people. We do Rally Point. And so now this is just the on-ramp up to the third deck. So transition, employment, education, and wellness. And wellness is often covered by each of the VSOs in the room, and the county VSOs and the like. We don't necessarily do mental health and hygiene and take care of someone, but we can get people there. And we don't necessarily deal with the darker side of PTS or we don't necessarily run hiring fairs that are going to hire 750,000 veterans in this great state. But we can get within 2 clicks to the people who can. So when we established the National Veterans Memorial Museum, we knew that we would be that platform to help and to impact.
This is an urgent time in our country's history, because for the second time in the last 50 years, as the Colonel said, our troops left the field in honor, but our civilian leadership ran like hell in shame and disgrace. And we need to do better. General Ferriter said in the past, it's time to put on a different helmet. And I like that statement. He went from being open to being closed and said, no, we're going to go online. We're not going to close. We're just going to change directions and use our existing people. So let's talk about the most recent homecoming. I've got a couple of guests that I was going to introduce, but the Colonel's already been introduced. And when somebody introduced him as, oh, he made 8 trips, and he said very, very humbly, no, sir, I made 13. My goodness. Can you imagine? And you're a career soldier, sir. Can you imagine a 23-year-old kid, because that's the average age of the guys that went to Afghanistan, made 4 or 5 or 6 trips? He goes in, he's a killing machine one day, he comes home the next day and he's holding his baby and talking to his wife, and then he goes back again. How do you recover from that? But these guys just keep going back and going back. That's the way the service is set up now. So we're getting these young men. They're not kids anymore, age-wise they are, but they're young men now, and they need help. And the best group to help them are Markwell, VBA, Purple Heart, because we've got so many combat veterans in there, the DAV, because they have so many combat veterans in there. Those are the people that we need to get involved right now and make a difference in these young men's life. We can't wait 15 or 20 years like what happened to the Vietnam veterans for PTSD to get off the ground, thanks to VBA, or for TBI to get off the ground, or for Agent Orange to get off the ground. We need to do it now. Emmett, will you stand up, please? Emmett is my department, is my chapter junior vice commander, and the reason I'm introducing Emmett. And you can see he's of the younger generation. I said, oh, look presentable. I guess that's presentable.
They didn't know what kind of event.
Oh, I'm kidding. We talked about it the last minute. So he's one of the guys that we have trouble communicating with because we're on different levels. He's so busy. I left, 3 voice messages on your, and his cell phone was full, and I happened to catch him at home 2 days ago, and guess what? Yeah, I'll be there. So some people it takes months to track down, and he's I'll be there. Emmett went to Afghanistan and Iraq how many times total? 5 times?
4 times between the two of them for over 56 months.
Okay, and if you read his who's who, it's ridiculous. He gave me acronyms I didn't even know what the hell they were. But 10th Mountain Division, Airborne, Pathfinder, what else that some of these people will know?
I mean, the list goes on. I mean, I like to just say I was put in positions to, get better as a leader so that I could spread that knowledge around to make my team better. So.
And you got out as a sergeant first class. Correct. Okay. These are the future leaders of these organizations, and we need to go after them. Purple Heart's successful in doing that. We've got a very high percentage, like 20% of our membership are now what we call G-Waters. Jerry and I call them G-Waters. Those are the guys we need to go after. We don't need to keep, Mark, you're an exception because it's VBA, but we don't need to keep getting 70-year-olds to join because we continue to do the same thing that we've always done and expect different results, and that doesn't work. I'd also like to introduce Dan. Will you stand up, please? Dan was one of our past department commanders. In fact, he superseded me. You spent how much time overseas in Afghanistan? Iraq. Excuse me.
I was in Kuwait in 2003 for what I call my practice deployment, and then an entire year in 2005.
So, and he obviously combat wounded and past department commander. And Will Thompson, who could not make it today, is also a past department commander, and he served in Iraq. I want to get everybody, but I would rather get a kid that's 35 years old than 75 years old, because he's the future of our leadership for our groups. I brought something out of Sunday's Dispatch, about this big, full-page article. All the senior command leaders in all the military branches wrote letters to their troops saying, you guys are worthy and you did a great job. Well, that's great. How many of those 23-year-old kids are going to read that? Or how many of those 23-year-old kids are really going to be moved by it? They don't even know who that general is. They probably never met him in their life. A lot of them never even met a general. So I don't know that works. But here's what does work. Since 1775, at the beginning of our country, 35 million men and women have served in our armed services. 35 million. 1 million have been killed in action serving our country, and 2 million have been wounded. So what we give up are those 23-year-old young men and young women. That's the blood and treasure of our country. So when they come back, the survivors come back, they deserve much better than they got in Vietnam, and they deserve better than we're probably looking at giving them right now from Iraq and Afghanistan, if we don't do something immediately. Every veteran that's been in combat can share that knowledge and those experiences with a fellow combat veteran from a different war. It doesn't matter the technology, it doesn't matter the armor, it's still the same 23-year-old that used to be a kid that's now a grown adult, not age-wise, but experience-wise, it's still the same 23-year-old kid. Sean last night, when he called, I was ecstatic that he could be here. I asked Sean last night, I said, how many veterans in the state of Ohio? 775,000. That was his number. Well, in this room right now are the leadership of about 225,000 of those veterans that are American Legion, DAV, Purple Heart, VVA, all right? A third of the leadership, a third of the members that are veterans their leadership's in this room. So this is an unparalleled opportunity to do something about it, to talk with these people. I looked at all of the mission statements of every organization, and Roger, the 4 pillars of American Legion, Veterans Affairs, National Security, Americanism, and Children and Youth. Jim Castor, DAV, empowering veterans to live high-quality lives, educating the public and youth. Mark, support important issues for all veterans, change the public perception of Vietnam vets, support the next generation of veterans, serve our communities. And their motto is, what is it, sir?
Never again will one generation of veterans forget another.
Here's a guy that's working with 2 generations away to try to perpetuate what we're doing with our veterans. Don't we all sound like the same thing? We're worried about the veterans, the history of the veterans, the welfare of the veterans, and how they're perceived in the community, and then going out and working in the community to make it better. We're all doing the same thing, all of us. We have the resources to make a difference right now with what we have here. We learned so much from Vietnam, and we did a lot of good things. Mark did some amazing things with EVA. Roger's got, 550 chapters post and 90,000 some veterans. DAV's got 1,300 posts nationwide. You've got 1.3 million, and they've got 1 million. The technology and the leadership that we need is here, okay? So what I'm going to propose, we need to have a group of all of these senior leaders, not their direct reports or whatever, but the people that can make the decisions, meet some way, either bi-monthly, quarterly, in an environment such as this, and really talk about what they're doing and share everybody's best practice. The wheel only needs to be invented one time. We don't need to keep reinventing it. So let's take, if we've got a program that's a great program, then we should share it. Thank you for everybody attending and listening to us, because the opportunity was here for us to get together and make a difference with the leadership here.